Okay, we're all set now.
We're ready? Okay, thank you. All right, good evening, folks. Welcome to the March 31st, 2020 regular meeting of the Common Council. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is now 5:02 p.m. and please rise and join me for the pledge. Let me give you a flag there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Carlin, would you please conduct a roll call?
Mayor Rosenquist?
I'm here.
Councilor Canales?
Here.
Councilor Kelly?
Here.
Councilor Gibbs?
Here.
Councilor Talon?
Here.
Councilor Mcfarland?
Present.
Councilor Moore?
Here.
All councilors have received a copy of the minutes of the March 18th, 2021 regular meeting. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections, I will now entertain a motion to accept the minutes as present. Motion by Councilor Canales, second by Councilor Gibbs. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. I will now recognize those in the audience who wish to share their thoughts and concerns with this council on any topic. Please raise your hand on the Zoom chat to be acknowledged, and then when called upon, we will ask that you please state your legal name and address for the record. In accordance with the organizational rules of order, all speakers will be given 5 minutes to address the council. Is there anybody in attendance right now who would like to speak to the council? Yes, Mr. O'Keefe. Thomas, hello, sir. You are all ready to chat if you want to unmute yourself.
That wasn't there. Just there we go. There we go. Sorry.
We can hear you. Thank you.
Can you see me now too?
Yes.
All of a sudden, I'm sorry, this is a new world to me, but it's not until you do something that I can unmute and do the screen. So thank you. I want to start by saying, I did make some comments. I don't mean to be certainly understood as anti-law enforcement. I want to start with the premise, the comments that I made, recognizing first and foremost, there are 22,000 names on the National Memorial in Washington, D.C. of officers who have lost their lives. Most recently, Officer Sicknick and Officer Tooley, Officer Talley, in Colorado, and Officer Sicknick at the Capitol. I do not mean to come across as anti-law enforcement. I want to be crystal clear about that. I spent 36 years in law enforcement. But having said that, like I told Judge McGill that night, and I still don't think he believes me, I think racism or potential exposure to racism has everything to do with what happens in the field. And what I mean by that is I used to tell my boss all the time, in the time it takes me to blink my eye, I could make a decision that either takes a life or gives my own. That's a lot of responsibility. That's a lot to put on somebody. And I want to make sure I just reinvested, Your Honor, in this city yesterday. I refinanced my home. I want to retire here. I love this city. So I have a personal interest in this. I don't want my city getting sued because we don't think there's a problem here, because we don't want to discuss it, because for whatever reason, I am beyond reason, but it should be discussed, and we should make sure, and we should make sure there are discussions. I know I had them in my career law enforcement. The prone arrest position is a good arrest position, but we were taught as soon as you got that second handcuff off, get them up. That's what we were taught. Get them up, get them standing. Otherwise you can asphyxiate just by lying there. And I want to make sure that every law enforcement officer does not use their position with any slant toward race, gender, or anything else, especially when employing these types of techniques, because they are necessary to do the job, and they give all of us a bad name, a few bad apples. I can't bring myself to watch the trial. I saw it live almost of Officer Chauvin. 8.5 minutes, sir, is all it took to change his life. 8.5 minutes, and that could be anywhere in the world. And I just hope we all understand we're dealing with human beings. I'm not saying this accusatorily. I'm just saying that let's make sure. I know I have biases. I have prejudice. I've learned to exercise them over the years. I'm an adult. We're all adults. We know when and where to say things and not to say things. And we've come a long way. And I'm proud of that. But there's a lot more changing every day. I mean, I'm afraid to go out. I don't even know how to address people sometimes. But I just know that this is my area of expertise, and I would like to share it if you need it. And I hope that in the report, there is some mention of the fact that we have to take a look at bias, inherent bias, unconscious bias. I don't know what you call it. I'm not a psychologist, okay? But I know that it's in us. I know that we all have said bad things before. I challenge anybody that says, I've never said anything racist in my life. I bet you I can get them in 10 minutes to say something racist. We've all said things. Just the other day in the paper, in Franklin County, the race issue in Franklin County is more transient than anything. That was an insult to me, sir. I have family that is of race. I have family that is of gender, not conditional gender positions. So I think we got to be careful and proceed carefully. We've never had a problem here. We've got a good force. Don't get me wrong. That's one of the reasons I live here. I just want to make sure that that is part of the conversation. And I thank you, sir, for the time and the opportunity to get into the, I apologize that my comments were so rattly and mixed. I really felt badly that I hadn't met the timeline. So I thank you for the opportunity to get that in.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, and to address, we did publish the plan, and as such, it does include implicit bias training and explicit bias training, and addressing those the concerns that you've addressed. So I appreciate, and yeah, even though you did send your comments in after the public comment session ended, we have included them into the public record, and we'll.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the council on any topic tonight? We did have one other person, but it looks like they kind of disappeared there. So, okay, seeing no other speakers, I will now go on to committee reports. And each standing committee is chaired by a councilor, and I will call on each chairperson of those committees, starting with City Operations Councilor Mcfarland.
No updates at this time.
Thank you, Councilor. Finance and Economic Development. We will have our next Finance Committee meeting on the 8th, I believe, which is next Thursday. Next Thursday we will have it, and I do want to point out that traffic zone designation number 972 is being proposed this evening. It is a standardization, a 2-hour standardization of all on-street parking within the downtown special assessment district. City Infrastructure, Councilor Moore.
I didn't have anything new to report at this time, but I just want to remind everybody that we're having our next meeting Monday, April 5th, and we'll be able to discuss a lot of topics at that time.
Thank you, Councilor Moore. Public Safety, Councilor Gibbs.
So we have a number of things that are happening in public safety, 2 of which are going to be discussed, or one will be discussed tonight, and then you're going to be introducing a local law tonight, Mayor, is that correct?
Correct. I will be doing that in new business. It's not necessarily an introduction, but more of an announcement that the public hearing will open. Right.
So we have our executive order that has been put together, and we're going to be voting on the resolution to adopt the plan. The mayor and Council Schneller and myself, Captain Keroy, Chief Lawless, we've been working on the management package, and that will be presented tonight for introduced as a local law tonight. So other than that, I don't have any other updates, but before I move on, can I ask a question of you, Mayor, regarding the Finance and Community Development Committee?
Yes, please.
I was going to chime in earlier, but I didn't get to the button quick enough. We had, you and I had spoken about request for reports from Richard on Friday. We were getting cash reports every Friday, for years. And then I know you're getting cash reports, but I'm formally requesting that those cash reports be forwarded to the council on a weekly basis. And Councilor Kelly, I know you and I had spoken, there was another report, or maybe it was inclusive of that report that you had requested as well, but I can't remember what that was.
It was a comparison of expenditures to revenues that Mr. Marks used to provide to us every month, but we haven't seen it in several months.
Yeah, thank you. That is a monthly report that I have spoken with Richard Marks about providing. I do get it. Yeah, my oversight that I hadn't forwarded it on, but that's something I'll continue to forward on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to liaison reports. Plattsburgh Public Library, Councilor Mcfarland.
No updates really from the last council meeting, but at the last council meeting, I did say the library was open, at least partially, to having people appear in person. So if you hadn't heard that yet, you can browse and borrow books. They are still doing social distancing and not allowing, it's not just completely open. And they are planning on, they are working on policies to allowing people to use the computers again. I still don't believe they are allowing computers at the moment, but they are working towards fully opening the library as soon as possible.
Thank you. Plattsburgh Municipal Lighting Department, Councilor Kelly.
No updates this week, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sneller, do you have any staff member reports?
No reports. However, I would anticipate the need for an executive session at towards the end of this meeting to discuss 2 matters of pending litigation.
Thank you. There are no special committee reports at this time. I will now entertain a motion to approve the payrolls of various city departments for the weeks ending March 31st, 2021 in the amount of $55,351.53. Motion by Councilor Gibbs, second by Councilor Moore. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilor Canales?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Gibbs?
Yes.
Councilor Talon?
Yes.
Councilor McFarland?
Yes.
Councilor Moore?
Yes.
Carried. I will now entertain a motion to approve the bills audited by the Common Council for the weeks ending April 2nd, 2021 in the amount of $514,828.04. Motion by Councilor Gibbs, second by Councilor Kelly. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilor Canales?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Gibbs?
Yes.
Councilor Talon?
Yes.
Councilor McFarland?
Yes, Beth.
Councilor Moore?
Yes.
Carried. Before voting on resolution 7.42, which is the only resolution on tonight's agenda, this item has been thoroughly discussed by the appropriate committee and department heads. We will now take action largely in part due to the recommendation of that committee. Ms. Carlin, would you please read the title of the resolution?
Resolution number 7.42, City of Plattsburgh Common Council adopting the City of Plattsburgh Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative Plan for Executive Order number 203 of Governor Andrew M. Cuomo, New York State Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative.
Motion by Councilor Gibbs, second by Councilor Canales. Discussion.
Yes, I have some discussion, Mayor.
Thank you.
I have some recommendations for some minor changes to the City of Plattsburgh's response to each of the panel's recommendations. And before I go any further, let me say that I would not recommend any changes to the panel's recommendations. I think they've worked very, very hard over many, many months to do a wonderful job of presenting some solid ideas for us. The task then for the city is to implement these ideas, and that's where I would like to suggest some minor changes to our responses. In particular, I would like to recommend first a couple of changes to panel recommendation number 2. I hope all of you have this documentation in front of you. But recommendation number 2, if we go down to the second bullet point, the last sentence reads, we anticipate funding, hiring and training to take between 6 to 8 months. And I'm recommending that we change that word hiring to engagement. The word engagement opens up the possibility that we could work with contractors, freelancers, other social service agencies, so that engagement means that we can have a lot of opportunities and possibilities to move forward. So I'd make first that recommendation, hiring to engagement. And then at the bottom of recommendation 2, the City of Plattsburgh's response, the final bullet addresses a serious concern the City of Plattsburgh has in having a strictly City of Plattsburgh only CIT. And then it goes on to say there are several law enforcement agencies that respond to emergencies in the City of Plattsburgh, and a concern about how they might use these services also. So I added an additional few sentences at the end of that bullet point, and I'd like to read those for you. For this reason, as a high priority, the city will explore with the various authorities mentioned above a shared services agreement in which all local law enforcement agencies have access to the CIT. Correspondingly, also as a high priority, the city will consult with the Clinton County Mental Health Department on the possibility of developing a countywide CIT. Finally, nonprofit mental health agencies could be consulted on the possibility of contracting for CIT services on an on-call basis. These actions should be budget neutral. So that's the end of that addition I'd like to make. So with your permission, I'll go on and read the final one. There's only one recommendation that I have left, and that's in panel recommendation number 3.
Sorry, Councilor Kelly, may I interject? I would like to maybe recommend that we adopt this change before we move on to the next one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be good because we can discuss it based on the conversation. I know Councilor Kelly and I spoke about this. Councilor Gibbs and I spoke about this as well. I have no concern with addressing this as a shared service and bringing that up as a high priority for us. I believe certainly that because of the number of law enforcement agencies that do cover the City of Plattsburgh, that this being a shared service would make the most sense. In the conversations that we had in developing this plan, it was indicated that maybe the City of Plattsburgh would be the only agency requiring this, but I quite frankly don't believe that to be the case, or I certainly would have concern if that were the case. But I 100% agree that this should be a shared service. It should be explored as a shared service and implemented as such. And to your other point around the engagement, I agree as well. It doesn't necessarily mean that we need to hire for the CIT. If we identify the crisis intervention team as a third-party service, it's something that we should be engaging in as well.
Okay.
So, so Mike, did you make a motion to change the language yet?
I did not make the motion, but I could do that right now.
Can I suggest language, or do you want to complete your second recommendation and then I can suggest some language?
Yeah.
Whatever you think is fine with me.
I think Councilor Gibbs, I think if we get through, if we are all in agreement with this item, we get through the next item, make adjustments to the next item, and then blanket make the Mike Kelly amendment to the plan, and then we'll adopt it as such.
So we'll do it as a bundle of changes.
There you go.
That's a good way to say it. Okay, then there is one final recommendation that I have, and that is under panel recommendation number 3. It reads, increase department staffing budget, creating a middle management tier compensated appropriately with adequate job protection and adding sufficient staffing based on historic needs. So the response initially was the mayor and city management are actively creating a benefits and pay package for the public safety management personnel. I'd like to add the following 2 sentences. Positions have been funded but not filled for several years, so now is the time to act. This response should be budget neutral or result in savings to the city's general fund. I brought that forward because it's my understanding that we do have a budget for middle management in the police department already, and we just need to act upon it. So with this, I'll make a motion that we accept the changes I recommend as a bundle. If anyone would like to second that motion.
I would, as you're reading this, the only thing that I would alter is, I would say select positions have been funded, specific to middle management and public safety. There have been 2 positions in the police department that have been funded, but other middle management positions have not been funded.
Okay.
Okay.
Select positions have been funded,
Yep.
but not for several years, so now's the time to act.
I think that would be sufficient for my concern.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Mike, before you make the motion, there's one little thing I'd like to say about recommendation number 1, if I may.
sure.
Please.
So it's, we will create by formal resolution a working group of community advocates to support the progress of the following plan. This group will consist of 5 self-selected members of the original public safety review panel, and we will engage this group as needed during the implementation execution of this plan, and will also provide regular progress reports. One of the things I'd like that working group to do would be to evaluate other municipalities' responses to the governor's executive 203. I've heard about New York City getting rid of qualified immunity and things of that nature. But it would just be nice that if, and that can be done in the formal resolution. So I guess it doesn't require a modification right now. But I would be interested if that group would be sort of evaluating what other municipalities are doing, and maybe making recommendations off those as well.
Okay, I'm writing this down, Patrick.
The other, I don't foresee that being a concern, and that could be put into the conversation as that group is formed, and in the formal and in language in the formal resolution that is something that they can be tasked with.
Yeah, that makes sense, because it's not being formed tonight, right? That's being formed at the next public safety.
Correct. Yeah. The idea is that the panel will select a number of members of their group and put them forth as that panel to oversee the implementation and guidance of implementing the plan.
Perfect. So if obviously Elizabeth heard me say that. So if that could just be brought up at the public safety committee meeting, that'd be great.
Any other changes to the language of the report? Okay, with that, I will make a motion that the changes I recommended be adopted by the full council. We will need a second for that.
Before I'll second that, but did Dean have specific language that he wanted to?
Nothing specific. It was going to be along those same lines that we a motion to amend the police reform plan in accordance with Councilor Kelly's proposed amendments, either as described or as set forth in his email from 2/14, today's date.
All right, perfect. I'll second Mr. Kelly's motion.
You said it much better than I could, Dean. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the Mike Kelly amendments?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Is there any further discussion on this plan? Seeing none, I will now take a roll call.
Councilor Canales?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Gibbs?
Yes.
Councilor Talon?
Yes.
Councilor McFarland?
Yes.
Councilor Moore?
Yes.
Carried. Normally at this time, we would go into executive session. However, I'm sorry, I'm going to most likely butcher your name, and I do apologize for that. Newsrot, you please, when you come in, please correct me, had their hand raised. It looked like they got booted off, and they've come back. So can you please bring them back into the chat, please?
If necessary, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to reopen public comment.
I don't believe that would be necessary, but
Okay.
thanks. Okay, it looks like they have, unfortunately, it looks like they have dropped off. We'll go into executive executive session at this point. And if we come back and they're here as well, then we'll open it back up for them to come and chat. Okay. I will now entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss pending litigation in the city of Plattsburgh. Councilor Gibbs, second by Councilor Kelly. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are now in executive session. We will be back in a moment.
Can you hear?
We'll give Councilor Moore a couple more minutes to join us. Okay, as noted, we are not taking any action coming out of executive session, but I will now take a motion to exit executive session. Councilor Gibbs, second by Councilor Canales. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Oh, is there any new business to come before this council? I know Councilor Talon would like to have the floor, so I'll yield to Councilor Talon.
Thank you, Mayor Rosenquist. First of all, can you hear me?
Yes.
I've been having some trouble with my microphone lately. Okay, so today is March 31st, which some of you may not know is International Transgender Day of Visibility. So I have a little bit of something I'd like to read, given to me by Kelly Metzgar, the leader of the Adirondack North Country Gender Alliance. So if I may. Transgender Day of Visibility is an international day of highlighting the existence and celebrating the achievements of people in the transgender community in terms of social justice, acceptance of the community, and to acknowledge the importance of transgender people in our families, social communities, places of employment, and civic service at all levels of local, state, and federal governments. This International Day of Recognition occurs annually on March 31st and serves to celebrate people who have the courage to acknowledge and live their authentic lives, to promote the importance of the transgender community in modern society, and to draw attention to the continued discrimination that transgender people face in terms of living their daily lives, involving employment, education, healthcare services, and general acceptance. Many people in today's society view transgender as a choice. It is not a choice to be forced to hide oneself from those they love, live with, or work with for the fear of rejection by family and friends, harassment, loss of employment, loss of access to medical or behavioral health care services, denial of social services, denial of public accommodations, housing, physical or verbal assaults, or the very real possibility of being murdered. These are not choices. It is heartening to see the recent surge of transgender people running to serve in elected office at all levels of government, most especially in higher profile positions such as Sarah McBride, the first openly transgender person to serve as a state senator for Delaware, and Dr. Rachel Levine, who was recently confirmed by the U.S. Senate to serve as Assistant Secretary of Health, making her the first openly transgender high-ranking U.S. government official. Still, the transgender community faces harsh backlash against their very existence. Several states and the former U.S. administration actively work to deny their very existence and survival, rolling back many hard-fought-for rights and protections. Kelly says she is thankful to live in New York State, which passed a series of progressive reforms since 2019 to protect our community, including the Gender Expression Non-Discrimination Act, known as GENDA, a ban on reparative therapy, walking while trans, and most recently legislation allowing transgender people to access public accommodations as needed. On the federal level, there is much hope for the support already shown by the current administration, on LGBTQI plus rights and protections. This is a great step forward to restoring the rights and protections recently lost over the previous 4 years. Oftentimes, the transgender community uses the symbol of the butterfly, who starts out as a caterpillar, grows, and slowly develops, finally transforming into a beautiful butterfly, which spreads its wings to enter the world as a completely new entity, ready to lead a new life from that in which they previously existed. So those are the words of Kelly Metzger from the Adirondack North Country Gender Alliance. If anybody has any questions for her, please send me an email. I'd be happy to put you in contact with her. And just to speak for myself here, it can be said that in the past administration, a lot of progress has been made in the city regarding equality and inclusiveness for the city. And I am very hopeful that this administration will keep that going. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer. Councilor Talon. In addition to new business, based on, so last meeting, we did introduce local law P1, but based on substantive changes to local law P1 of 2021, it is now being reintroduced tonight, and a public hearing is set for Thursday, April 15th, 2021 at 5 p.m. to receive public comments on proposed law P1. A local law renaming, amending, and restating Chapter 254, quote, peddling and soliciting in the city code of the city of Plattsburgh. Once renamed, Chapter 254 will be entitled Food Trucks. Tonight, I'm also introducing local law P2 of 2021 and setting public hearing on Thursday, April 15th, 2021 at 5:01 p.m. to receive public comments and proposed law P2, a local law adding Part 4 public safety management compensation, inclusive of Article 30 entitled Police and Fire Management Compensation to Chapter 52 Emergency Services to the City Code of the City of Plattsburgh.
And because we're virtual, I believe Beth is going to be circulating those local laws by email to every counselor.
Correct. Is there any new business to come before this council? Seeing none, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Councilor Gibbs, second by Councilor Canales. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are now adjourned, folks. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Aye.
Bye-bye.